This is a typical post and rail fence you find in Australia, just about in every state. 38 by 25 post and rail, 50-50 posts. You've got different styles of decking. You know, you've got trim deck, you've also got corrugated. The neighbour, 50% of everybody who's got a fence like this has a post and a rail, which is a good thing because that means people can't climb over into your garden. But you know, we get so many people saying it's ugly, I want to hide it, but the neighbour doesn't want to have the expense of changing the fence. So we've got a retrofit system that looks fantastic. It's all sorts of bricks and stones, and it's very lightweight, very DIY. So what we're going to do is show you today how to make this magnificent. On the other side of the fence, you have this. This is a little bit rustic, but most fences these days are looking a bit shabby. So we can also retrofit these fences, either corrugated or trim deck or whatever design it may be, by putting the battening on where the rails are and batten this out, which I'll show you. So you can do the same on this side of the post and rail fence as you would do on the other one. So we'll get to that one after, but we'll do the post and rail side, which is probably more common, that people want to hide that and they want a cost-effective way of doing so. For this retrofit today, for this fence, we're going to be using a few components. This is a foam-filled flashing. This is our foam component. These are our posts. These have been designed and notched out to go around a 50 by 50 post. And this is the recess. This is the flashing that goes around this, and we connect to this by using one of these back straps. They go around the panel, around the post, and around the 50-50 post, and that gives it security. These things are very, very lightweight, but they're very strong. Once the flashing's on, they're very strong. This one here is our foot plate, or our plinth, some people like to call it. This is going to fix to our top hats or our 40mm roof batten. They're going to go from the 25 by 38 by 25 rails on the fence, which I'll explain to you. It's very simple. These come in different designs. This is designed just for a flat floor or a flat garden, if you like. This is going to be fixed through here, and we're going to have a starter strip for our panel system, which I'll show you in a minute, which sits here. On a block that has a slope, so therefore the fencing is on a slope, there'll be a recess down here, therefore it can hide the panel on the bottom, so when you cut the panel. We're going to be using Brickworx Australia's panelling system. These are rock, brick or stone, different styles. This one today we're going to be using is a rock series. So basically we're going to encase this with our foam flashing on a post and rail fence. That's going to be our retro. Our components that we're going to be using are basically the back straps for each column. So each column has two back straps. Just some liquid nails, which is good for polyurethane, and some PK screws, which are drill point, 10 by 16 screws, some blind rivets, and we're only going to be needing a level, a tape, some fixings for our, some bits for our screws, and very, very minimum. It's going to be very quick. Depending on your supplier and where you're buying, if it's a DIY, these will already be inserted like this one. The foam's already inserted into the flashing. But what we're going to do now, like I said, depending on your supplier, we're going to insert the foam into the flashing and come out with a inserted column. Generally it's quite easy. You just sort of open up the wings and then you start sliding the column in, the foam column, and it goes in pretty easily. You just need a little bit of teasing, that's all. Just when you insert the foam, just make sure it's nice and flush on the top, because later we're going to be putting a capping on there. I'm going to offer the column up to the post and rail fence now. This is a 50 cutout that's in the back of the foam on the back of the column. So what we're going to do is offer that up, and that's going to fit nicely around the 50 by 50 column, like so. And from that point on, we're going to mark the back of the foam to where we're going to install our back strap. So we want one around about there on our back strap, and again another one just above the rail. This is going to hold the column to the 50 by 50 post. Now we've marked our column from where we know where our 38 by 25 tubes are. We'll take the backing straps and we'll place them over the back of the column. Now these may be pre-drilled depending again on your supplier. So what we want to do now is drill through the flashing, which is on the back of the fence, with a couple of fixings to either side. And this being black, it doesn't help, but normally these are a lighter colour. I'm going to mark this as A, and I'm going to do the same down this end. This is the bottom of the column, so we're going to mark it as B. You can mark it any which way you want. So once it's pre-drilled, then we'll offer it back up, we'll put the back straps behind, and then we'll put the rivets in the holes, and that will keep the column together. Now we've pre-drilled our back straps, what we will do is now take the column and we'll offer it back up over to the fence. Now before we offer the column back up to the post, we're just going to put our back straps behind the existing post. We're going to let them sit. So that's number B. We marked them number A. Okay, and we also mark the top so we know exactly which way around these go. So we're going to offer them back. We're just going to let them sit there for the minute, and then we're going to bring our post over and we're going to offer it up and then bring them up into the position that they require. So what I'm doing now is I'm offering the column up to the 50 post. So as I do that, I just want to put into position my back straps. So I'm going to hold this as you can see. I'm just bringing the column and the back straps together. Now that's going to be blind riveted into the back of the flashing. That's going to hold that nice and tight against that 50 by 50 fence post, and that column will never be able to be pulled away from the fence post. So I'll do that now. I'll rivet them into position and then we'll do the next one. Now we've finished with our back straps, riveting them onto the back of the flashing. There's a hole in the back strap on the side, and what we're going to do now is just pre-drill that out, and that goes into the 50 by 50 fence post. I'm going to be putting a longer tech screw through the back strap and the foam into the 50 by 50 post. That will also give it extra stability so the post can't be pulled off of the 50 by 50 rail. Now we've fastened our columns securely. For the panels to sit against the fence, we're going to use a 40mm roof batten, or commonly known as top hat. And I'm going to space these out at every 360 millimeters, so our panel system can fasten straight onto them. The first ones I'm going to put up is the two ends. So we're going to space them from the back of the column 140mm away from the post. Therefore we can get an even span. Right? Mm-hmm. now we've installed the 40mm top hat or roof batten, we can now start preparing the base plate or the foot plate or the plinth, whatever you want to call it. So what we've got to do is we've got to measure in between the two columns, cut the foot plate or the base plate to size and fasten it against the 40mm battens. So what we're going to do here is cut this section away from the foot plate because this section needs to sit inside this section. So we're just a little bit too long. If you've got a sloping block, you'll find that you might have to cut the foot plate on an angle depending on the angle of the block. So what we do here is just mark this down here and we'll measure across, we'll mark it all the way down and we'll just cut it. Now we've offered up the foot plate or the plinth. What we can do now is fasten the plinth or the foot plate back onto the rondo or the top hat. What I'm going to do is use some of this foam friendly adhesive. We're going to put some of that up where we're going to have our foot plate, and then we're going to fix the foot plate back to the top hat, making sure that we've got a nice level. So we can have a nice level for when we start our paneling. So what we'll do is just glue up the areas where the foot plate will be sitting with some adhesive, and that there will bond to the foam and be supported by the fixings on the top. I'm using this flat screw with a self-drilling point on this section because later on along here we're going to have a panel, so I don't want the protruding head of the 10x16 tech screw. Right, what I'm doing here is I've put a starter strip spacer underneath the starter strip that we use to keep the back of the panel, the bottom of the panel, nice and firm. So on this particular panel series that we're using, the starter strip needs to start at a 10mm distance above the bottom of the foot plate here. So I'm using a piece of starter strip to slide underneath this one before I fix it. And it gives me that perfect 10mm off of the fixings here. So therefore I can go ahead now and move this along and fix my starter strip to my foot plate or plinth, and then we can start to insert the panels into the starter strip. What we're going to do now, we've fixed our foot plate, our columns and our top hat or 40mm roof batten. We're going to put the Brickworx decorative stone panel in between the columns, and how that operates is the bottom of the panel with its finger system sits into the starting strip, allowing that bottom to stay really firm. But what we have to do here is we're going to cut some panels and we're going to join them together, and the flat sides will initially slide straight past into the column, giving us a really nice seamless finish. So now I'll cut a panel. These can be cut quite easily using an angle grinder or a bench saw. I'll show you how to cut them and mark them with an angle grinder. The best way to cut these, like I said, is with an angle grinder with a very, very fine blade. To measure them, it's quite simple. You find the end of the sheet where you've got to understand these panels have two ends. One is a female design and the other one is a male design. They slide into each other. Now, we're going to use a half a sheet to start with because it's very easy to control when you clip them together using it in this method. To measure, the female side has basically a flat edge, so it's really simple to measure. So if we're going to start here and we want to measure, say at 550, we'll mark 550 on the panel along there, and then we'll come back using that and use 550 again, which is there. With our straight edge, we will then run a line down here and use the angle grinder to cut it neatly. Okay, now with the cut panel, you'll now notice that we have two sides. We have the female side, and we'll obviously have the male side, the half. So what we're going to do is, using the fingers at the back, it slides into the starting strip, as you can see, so it keeps it nice and firm down there. We'll slide that all the way up past the post by 20 mil, like that, and that's given that a really nice reveal. So from this point on, we know that our opening here is going to be 2 panels. So we'll get a full panel, which is male and female, again slotting it into the starting strip, and then they marry together using the fingers. So I'm just going to wiggle them in like that. Okay, so we've got plenty of room to move, so we're going to add the other half of the panel that we cut. So because I can slide this up and down, what I'm going to do now is take the other half of the panel that I cut, and I'm going to slide it behind the post. I'm going to make sure that all the teeth are locked at the bottom, lock the teeth into the starter strip, and then we're going to lock the panel. So now I can move everything to hide the reveal. So what I'll do now is I'll just slide that up into the 20 mil. So I've got 20 mil hidden behind the post either side. All my fingers are in, so the bottom of the panel won't kick out. All I need to do now is fasten the tops of the panel back to the 40 mil rondo, and I just repeat.